Hey guys, Nick here with Karma's Crops on Karma's Corner 420. Just wanted to run you guys through a quick cloning tutorial. We're going to be using MSNL's version of blackberry moon rocks. They call it Cushberry moon rocks. We love how it grows. I mean, the size of these fan leaves, it just makes it look awesome. It's obviously a heavy indica, so you're going to get a lot of branches shooting out of everywhere, making it better to clone because you're going to get more clones without having to really over manipulate the plant to get it to that point. So we chose this one as one of our mother plants for the upcoming spring, which we're getting close to. So probably that time of the year to start getting your toes wet if you're going to be cloning any of your mother plants coming up here. You want to start with something that is at least 2 months old, because they're mature at that stage and they're going to shoot roots way better than something that's younger than that. And you could clone this thing right now is right about 2 months old. You can clone her successfully with 90 to 100% success rate up until 4 or 5 months old. And then some of the stems are going to start getting woody or semi-woody by then, and it'll just make the cloning process a lot longer. You want your stems to be nice and, herbaceous, malleable, like bendy like this. That means that we're going to be able to clone these. If they're woody or semi-woody and they snap or crackle a little bit when you bend them, it's time to put her in the flower and move on. So this one's at the prime age for that. Before you start anything, you're going to gather all your supplies, and if you've used them before, or even if you haven't used them before, you're going to sanitize everything. And you're going to also want to use gloves for the whole procedure, just because the transfer of any sort of pathogen, can get into your plants and make all your time a huge waste. So let's get started. We're going to, usually I'd come in here and I'd take off, 20 or 30 cuts and, get them all set. And then we just keep moving on from there. But for educational purposes, I am just going to I'll show you guys maybe 4 or 5 of them, the whole process through. And then when I'm off camera, I'm going to finish cutting this plant and then putting it back under light. Let's see here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get, a lot of people like to say they cut from the tops, or a lot of people like to say they cut from the bottoms. It's not going to make a difference. Your cloning success rate is going to be the exact same if you're taking branches from down here or if you're pulling them from up here or in the middle. It's all going to be the same. So we don't have to really worry about that. Maybe figure out what you want your plant to look like after you get your cuttings off of there. Whatever the structure is you're shooting for, you could base your cuttings on that, or you could just come in here, take off however many cuttings you need, and then just let it get back to what she's got to do. We'll pull probably, like I said, 20 or 30 off, put it back under light, and then 2 weeks from now, it'll be double in size. They'll have triple the amount of shoots to clone off of, and we'll keep going after for maybe 2 or 3 months, just pulling hundreds of clones off of her. Again, sterilize, sanitize everything. We like these guys here. You get straight edge scissors, or you get the ones with the little curved. They were designed for when you're cleaning up your buds. They could kind of wrap around them, and I like them for the opposite direction. I like how they can curve outwards. So anytime you're messing with the plant or cutting anywhere, these blades are curved outwards, so you got less of an opportunity or less of a chance of clipping something that you don't want to get clipped in there. So we always go for the curved scissors, and we use them in the opposite direction of what they were designed to originally do. So we'll go through, like I said, we'll do 4 or 5 just to show you guys, and then I'll get back after it and finish the rest of the cuttings. The first thing you want to do is, so what we're going to use FOOP. cloning gel today. What they did is they took, usually you're going to have a rooting gel and a cloning solution separate from each other. These guys put it together, so it's going to be a little different than if you were using a Clonax or an Olivia's or one of those other products. With this, they take a couple steps out of it, so I like this. It works good. We have good success with it, and we use the other ones too. We hop around from one to the other. But since this one already has a built-in cloning solution, our cup that usually would have the cloning solution in it for our cuttings to go in until they're ready for me to get them into the blocks would have that cloning solution. This is just going to be a pH'd water. You want it at 6.2 pH. And we're going to take our cuttings, we're going to set them in there, we're going to get this plant out of the way, and then we're going to get to work. So again, this is just regular plain water, pH. It's probably at 6.2, I believe it was. Yeah, let's get them. So you want to get, long enough, and you're going to cut right below a node so that you have extra surface area. We're going to take these big leaves off real quick here. Anything out of the way of, what we're going to be working with on the stem. Put it in the water for now. A lot of people get paranoid about that air bubble that they talk about, that air embolism that can get up into the, if your cutting here is exposed to the air for too long. They talk about an air embolism or an air bubble getting up into here and killing that part and not allowing the roots to form. Before we stick them into our Rockwell cubes and put them into our propagator, we're going to cut them again anyways, and that air bubble can only move up a teeny bit, so we're clipping the bottoms off anyway, so you don't got to be wicked fast at it, but you don't want to just leave them laying out, so let's get them in the water. Like I said, again, we're going to do 5 for right now. Again, keeping the curved blade facing outwards from where all your cuts are coming from. That way we're not clipping any other part of the plant that we don't want to clip. You see, I'm just pulling these cuttings from wherever just to show you guys that it's not that important where we're going to do them from. And if there's anything in the way on these stems, we'll just move it out for now. We'll do some cleanup before we get them going, though. That's 4, I believe. Let's get number 5 here. Get these big guys out of the way. Put them right down into the garbage there. Get them in the water. And we are going to move this mama plant out of the way. Alrighty. Now we could just set this in the back here a little bit for now. Now with the mother plant out of the way in our work area here, we're going to get a couple other things that we're going to need. Heat mat. This obviously isn't going to stay here, but so you guys could see, that's super important for setting your cloning tray on, because we got to keep the roots nice and warm, or the roots that we want nice and warm. Here's the tray we're going to use, and then humidity dome for afterwards. We use Grodan Grow Cube, Rockwell cubes. That's our go-to. They do it right. They got sizes. This is probably 1.5 inch ones, all the way up to big. I don't know the exact sizes. I like starting with these little ones because then, we get the clones to root in these, and then you could go anywhere you want from this. You could put this in a bigger grow cube. They have pre-cut out holes in them that would set right in there. You could put this in soil. You could put this in some sort of a clay pebble for a hydro setup. I mean, I like to start with these little ones because then if I'm not going to keep them all myself, anybody that gets them from us has the opportunity to put them into whatever they want to put them in. Again, if we weren't using FOOP, these would be soaked in our cloning solution overnight for 24 hours. You want them soaked in there for 24 hours. Since we're using FOOP and they cut that part out by adding their cloning solution into their rooting gel, we're just soaking these in the same thing, the water, in plain water, and it's pH'd at 6.2. That's super important, because if anything's going to uptake anything, you got to have it pH'd right. So these have been soaking. They're at the maximum saturation level, which means they are holding as much water as they're going to be able to hold. Never squeeze these things, so you're going to pick them up out of this. I have had them soaking in this tray for a while. And just kind of gently shake them, get that excess water, because that's over our maximum saturation. And you're not going to squeeze the cubes, because that's going to condense those those fibers, and it's going to keep it from allowing the roots to grow out of them. So holding them gently, we're shaking the excess water, and we're going to set them in our cloning tray. We're going to do that. I believe, what did we say? We did 5. So we're going to do 5 of these, getting the excess water out, but we're going to leave them fully saturated. That's 3. Remember, hold these nice and gently when you're shaking them out. You do not want to squeeze them, or they're going to either crush your stems that you're putting in there, or they're not going to allow your roots to grow through the fibers. All right, there's 5 of those there. I don't know if you guys could see, but these little holes in here, they're designed for seed placement. So they only go down a little bit, and they're not usually as big as you need them for certain size stems. So we're going to manipulate that hole a little bit. What I usually use is I'll take a Q-tip, and I will cut the head off right there, and then we'll use that to manipulate the hole a little bit. We'll widen it a little bit, and you could feel the bottom end of it. You're not going to want to go down all the way to the bottom. You're going to want to leave about 1/4 of an inch up, and then you're not going to want the hole too big neither, so you're going to want your stems to fit in there nice and snug, so that there's a lot of surface contact. You want those stems touching all them fibers in there. That promotes the root growth even better. So we'll do it with these 5. Just manipulate these holes so that these are going to work good for cloning. Again, they're designed for seed placement, so there's a little manipulation needed, but we've tried a million different products. These are our go-to, so we stick with these guys. Alrighty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to we took our FOOP and we put it in something separate. You don't want to dip your cuttings in here, because that could contaminate this. You want to be able to keep using this time after time. So you gave this a good shake, put it in something separate. We use our measuring shot glass. These things are clutch. I don't know if you guys could see it on there, but they got all the measurements. Before these came along, you'd find me using little teaspoons and stuff out of the kitchen. Mrs. Karma was not that happy about that, so once we seen these, we grabbed onto these. These are clutch. Love them. Anyways, we use them for our cloning gel as well. So we got that ready. You're going to take these guys one by one, and we are going to remove. So we got a little time, like I said. We don't got to worry that much about that air bubble. People get paranoid about it, and you'll read about it, you'll Google it, and they really harp on that embolism down there, but we're cutting it out of the way anyways, so it's not a big deal. If I got this thing out and I'm showing you guys stuff, what we're going to do is you're going to want your canopy of clones even, so your cuts are going to have to use some sort of measurement for it. We use our hand. We'll put it across like this. And then I'm going to show you guys, we're cutting them all at the same height, and we're going to remove some of the ends of the leaves, not because of what you'll read, on it forcing the roots to grow and putting the energy where it needs to be, but because we don't want none of the leaves touching each other. We don't want none of them touching the humidity dome. And yeah, so here's what we do. We're going to take our cutting out of the water. We're going to get rid of these extras here. Again, curved blades pointing outwards. Get rid of the extras. We're going to come up with our hand, pull it up to the apical top. So apical as in apex, as in top. These little these top sets of leaves right here are going to be your apical part of this cutting. Apical, again, is apex as in top. So we're going to pull up till we get to the apex, apical. We're going to clip those off. We're going to come at the curve of my hand right there, cut that at the curve, and then we're going to set it inside that cloning gel. We'll let it set there in a minute while I tell you guys why we cut the angle there. The angle is all that does for you is that creates more surface area. Let me put this in the garbage out of the way. That creates more surface area for roots to form. Also, if you got nice little nodes down there where your cloning gel is and where it's going to be inside the rock will, that's also provides you with more surface area. So we let it in there for a second. You make sure that it's, you got plenty on there. And then we're going to put it right down in here, and we're not going to force it. Those stems are, again, they're herbaceous, so they're malleable. They're weaker than something woody or semi-woody, so you're just going to get it down in there so everything's touching, and that's going to be our first clone. Set that aside, and we'll pound through these other 5. Usually we're doing 50 to 100 at a time, so we'll fly through them. Everything's preset, and we'll keep on moving. Again, we'll get these big guys out of the way here. If you want, it depends on how many you're going to do. If you're not going to fill this tray up, we'd probably leave this guy on. So let's for educational purposes, we'll leave that guy on. Again, come up to the apical top. We'll get that stuff out of the way there. The bottom curve of the hand, we're cutting, creating that surface area, setting it in there, and you could do a couple like that. You could get a couple set in your cloning gel there. Move that out of the way. We're gonna keep that big guy for now. People love chopping leaves off everything. I like to keep some sometimes, so get that into that cloning. Let it sit in there. Put this stuff in the garbage out of the way. You want to keep your spot as clean as possible. So move all that stuff out of the way. Again, these cubes are ready. We already manipulated the holes to what they needed to be. These girls have sat in there long enough. So we will just set it in there. Make sure none are touching. You don't want none of the leaves touching each other. So make sure everything's got enough room. If you pull it out and too much of it, the water allowed too much of it, you would just, swirl it around in there a little bit. Let's get that into our cubes. And you could feel it, when you put it in there, you could feel them stick because we made the hole a little deeper than what they had provided us, for seed placement. Got 2 more cubes here. So we'll cut off these extras, get them out of the way. It's fine that this stem was reaching up towards the light. So you see the curvature there. Doesn't matter. It's going to correct itself in our cloning propagator here. So again, we're up to the apical. Taking that off, cutting our bottom, setting her in there. And we took one too many for our little class we got going here, but that's all right. It's good to knock that water off anyways. Let's get these branches, these extra leaves out of the way. A little too much extra on there, but we'll keep some of that because that's going to be good for root formation. Get that into the gel there. Let these sit for a minute. Alrighty, finish off our last 2. Oh, put it back in there. Let's get it in the blocks here. You feel them stick through a little bit. Again, make sure they're not touching each other. If you guys notice, we do our clones, we start them off smaller than you see other people. Other people like to get their big giant ones. I want all mine to start small, and then we grow low and slow so we can manipulate our plant into making it look and act however we want it to. Which you can do, the smaller the better, and then we'll get roots out of there in a couple weeks. And then it'll allow us to manipulate the structure of these plants for what we want the final architecture to be of them, final look, the final shape. So yeah, now that we got them in there, we would already, let's move this out of the way here a little bit so you guys can see. This is a heat mat, right? We would have already had that plugged in wherever we were going to place this. So that would have been up to temperature. This would have been up to temperature. And what these heat mats do is they bring up the, if your room temperature is 65 or your tent temperature is 70 degrees, that's going to raise the root zone temperature of this tray 10 to 15 degrees higher than what the room temperature is. So that's clutch. Most people's tents, if you got them hovering around 70, that's going to put our roots at 80 or 85. It's going to create plenty of warmth in there. These cuttings love heat, love moisture. So yeah, we're going to have that ready. This is going to go into one of our tents with our mother plants. And we do that because, the temperature is correct up in there. We're at 70 degrees in those mother tents. And the heat mat's going to bring this up to probably around 80 to 85 with a dome on it. And the mother plants are going to shade out the direct light, because that's one thing you got to be careful. You don't want direct light on these clones here. I'm going to put this on while I'm talking, just so we could keep the moisture. You don't want direct light on them. So we put them, to the side of one of our mother plants. So there's indirect light in there, and that gives the cuttings the want to develop roots, because the direct light's not on them, and it's not wanting the leaves, it's not forcing the leaves to grow. The roots are trying to find hold in there with the indirect light. If you don't have a tent to put them in, like how we're going to do, or if you do have a tent and you don't have, a way to shade it out a little bit, I'm going to say no more than 35 watt light. You don't want anything more than 35 watts above this or around this, because that's going to lengthen the time for your roots to come, if they even come. So what these domes do is this is going to keep the moisture. And you hear a lot of people talking about spraying or misting the leaves of their cuttings. You don't actually have to do that if you're using a humidity dome, because this, coupled with the heat mat and keeping everything enclosed in here, is going to bring this up to between 90% and 100% humidity, which cuttings need. They want that high temperature, they want that high humidity, the indirect light, and within 10 to 14 days, we're going to shoot roots out of these guys. I promise you, if you follow these instructions, you're going to be successful at cloning your own cannabis. The more cuttings that you take, the better, until you perfect this process, because, let's be honest, whatever ends up getting roots out of here are free plants for you. You didn't have to buy the seed. You didn't have to grow it. We put a little bit of investment into the grow blocks, to a couple of these things. Some of this stuff is reusable. The FOOP comes in a 4 ounce. This right here is going to do you more than 300 plus cuttings. So something like this right here it's a low cost. This probably costs us $10. We could do 300 plus cuttings with a 4 ounce bottle of this. This is reusable. These Grodan blocks, very affordable. They're the way to go. And yeah, what else? I think that's pretty much it. Couple more things about the whole FOOP product that we're using here is that's fully organic, and here at Karma's Crops, we pride ourselves on everything being fully organic, even our big hemp fields, which that is a challenge, but we stick to it. So even all of our small projects, we stay fully organic. These guys are fully organic. No synthetics, no synthetic hormones, just fully organic. I think it includes stuff like aloe vera, and a couple other things. That smells, I want to say minty, so it's pleasant to work with. It's made in the USA, so that's clutch. Made in the USA. We like stuff like that. And you could use it in this type of cloning, or if you have a water cloner, an aero cloner. A lot of them you can't, because that mist spraying up onto the bottom of the roots and those aero cloners is going to wash that off, so it's a waste. This is made for both, so it's pretty versatile. And yeah, again, so a couple things that you guys hear when it comes to cloning that you don't have to focus on is, if you're using this humidity thing with the heat mat, we're going to bring our humidity up to 90 to 100% with this, so we're not spraying the leaves. We don't have to worry about that. We're not going to mess with this thing for the first 4 to 5 days. When this thing is fully covered with moisture inside, and you see all the droplets forming off, then we're going to crack these tops a little bit so that there's air replacement. Again, once a day, you could lift lid a little bit, burp it, get it back closed. And again, if it's full of moisture, we'll keep these vents open. If that starts taking the moisture away, then we mess with them. These cuttings want a lot of moisture, a lot of heat. It's tempting to get in there. A lot of people will tug. They'll grab their clones. Say this was in here, and a lot of people will say, if you tug on there and it doesn't pull out, that means it's starting to root. Well, if it's just starting to root a little bit and you tug on this, you're gonna damage those little roots popping out. So we don't do that. All we're gonna do is we're gonna check it. We probably won't check them for the first 5 or 6 days for anything, and then after that we'll start looking on the bottoms of these cubes here to see if there's any little white formations. Once you start seeing a little roots there, then we're going to allow more oxygen, more air to circulate in there. And yeah, if you guys follow these instructions, hope you guys the best of luck, and good luck cloning. Ciao.